Well, there you have it, folks. Nebraska does defeat Northwestern 28-21, and in so doing becomes bowl eligible for the second time in a row. Gary, it was an intense game that I think many will end up saying, oh, it just came down to Nebraska getting a favorable call by the refs. And I will admit it was a hold on Andrew Marshall at the end of the game. However, like you said in the stream, it's not really a hold when the refs have been setting the precedent all game that it's not one.
Yeah, and there was a way more blatant missed call on them holding, I think it was Javen Wright before he threw the ball. So, I mean, nothing to me was as egregious as that stop on fourth down where he bobbles the ball back behind the line of scrimmage. They review it and still get it wrong. Like that was, to me, that was the most pivotal point of the game. And on a positive note, Nebraska still was able to pull out a win. But I mean, that is a critical momentum changer between Nebraska getting the ball back, having only allowed 6 points up to that point, offense not really humming, but the running game starting to be established a little bit more. You had the opening kickoff for the second half that was housed. Momentum in the game was really turning in Nebraska's favor up until that point. And then you have the 15-yarder on Sayre right after that. They score, and all of a sudden you've got a tight ball game where Nebraska's on the verge of really being able to open it up, and you're putting Northwestern in positions where they're going to have to throw the ball 80-90% of the time the rest of the way out. And as streaky as that quarterback was, he already had a turnover, a lot of balls tipped in the air. I think it was a big difference between Nebraska having a real comfortable win and having to eke one out. But like I said, positive note, all the talk of Rule can't win once he hits the 5-win mark. Past that, Nebraska can't lock up bowl wins, especially when it gets into November. We don't have to. It's locked up before November now. That being said, a lot of the issues that we've had all season are still there. Most of them are still there. I do like the focus and the drive and the fight in the team compared to last week. But the missed tackles, I mean, if guys aren't swarming to the ball like they were today, the missed tackles look as bad, if not worse, as they did last week. So, I mean, that's a good and bad type thing. It's great to have guys flying to the ball. It's inexcusable at this point in the season. It's not like it's new. It's not like missed tackling started last week and, well, still don't quite have it corrected. It's been an issue all year, and it's still an issue. That's a massive problem that's going to look a lot worse. It's going to look a lot more magnified, against basically every team we have left on the schedule, but especially next week against USC. If guys are diving at ankles still and just throwing a shoulder into a guy and not trying to drive him to the ground, there's going to be a lot more big plays, explosive plays. That's one thing that was really diminished this week. The one touchdown was a big busted run, but there wasn't 3 or 4 huge gouge plays that really set it back. Like I said in the stream, man, I don't know that it's possible for somebody to be a bigger fan of Holgorsen being the offensive coordinator than me. And I'm getting to a point where I'm just like, what are we doing? To me, there's 2 answers, and it might be more than this. I'm overlooking something. But either he's still trying to run Satterfield's offense, and if that's the case, why did you bring him in? I understand transition-wise, you don't want your team learning a whole new offense, but if you're the offensive coordinator long-term going forward and your quarterback's only going into his second year, get it going, implement it. Let's get some consistency in the offense. Or if this is his offense and he's just calling these plays, it's what he wants to run. I don't understand what we're doing. I don't understand. In one aspect, you have a team that is not the identity that you want to have from rules perspective. You want to be this hard-nosed Big Ten smash mouth football team. You don't have the roster for that. You don't have either one of your trenches set up to do that. You can't stop teams from doing it. You can't impose your will on teams with your offensive line. And you don't have the offensive line to give your quarterback time to drop back and run double and triple moves and deep ball routes and things like that because he's under pressure too much. And he's a drastically different quarterback when he's under pressure. When they did go to the quick pass game, which they refused to do last week, good things happened. Whether it was the quick pass to Lindenmeyer on 3rd and 16, 14, whatever it was, and you got almost all of it back, and Harburg ended up getting the first down on the next play. Early in the game, the first drive or two, there was a couple quick passes. It kind of keeps the defense on their toes, and I think that was part of the reason like a hand in hand thing. Between the running game and that quick pass game, I felt like he had good movement early on. Finally got a touchdown in the red zone, just a, handoff, letting Emmett get off to the edge. Lennemeyer did a great job sealing the edge on that one. So there's improvement in spots, but you have a lot of third downs where guys aren't running routes past the first down marker. And whether that's the guys not running the right routes they're supposed to be, that's your job as the offensive coordinator to make sure people are executing your offense. If the plays are designed that way, well, we want to give them the ball in stride and then they get the rest. It's not working. Those things need to be addressed or, improved upon before you play these next few games. You just cash it in that you made the bowl game and whatever happens, happens. But there's always going to be things to work on no matter how good you are. It just sucks that we're this far into the season and it's the same things that have been a problem all season long. Like the offensive line talk is going to continue, and rightfully so. But I don't think there's anything they're asking these offensive linemen to do that it's like, yeah, you need a different scheme. You need to scheme this better. You need to acknowledge that you're more of a spread out and get your athletes the ball in space and get the ball out quick until you can get the guys in to run the more power stuff that you think you should be running. Or there does need to be a change at that position because there's no reason this far down the road after as many recruits as we've gotten and we've heard how great they are, how high rated they are. A lot of them were the number one recruits in their state. And as bad as the line's been, as much as injuries have affected your offensive line, you can't put anybody in from them. Now, I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know what they have, but they're with them every day in practice, and they don't feel comfortable putting these guys in. You're retreading Prohaska and Corcoran and these guys from the Frost era that are just getting blown up. And Prohaska's had more than his share of injuries. That could be the biggest part of it. I don't know, but regardless, that's not an excuse. If you can't get the job done, what's the difference in having an undeveloped guy getting some game reps and seeing what he has as opposed to putting a guy in that's hindered by injuries, likely to get injured again, and he can't do the job either? Like, not to put anybody on blast, but it is what it is, man. Like, at some point, you're going to have to start getting these guys in. You're relying on 2, maybe 3 transfer portal guys and carryovers from the Frost era. And that was a big talking point during Frost is like, he doesn't have the line. That's why Donovan got brought in. He's supposed to make it better, recruit and develop these guys, and he's great at it and this and that. Where's it at? How many more years does he need? Like, I'm all for patience with coaches and coordinators and things like that, guys getting developed, but he's been here the longest. He's had the most time with his position group, and those guys are the longest tenured guys on the team, and there's nothing but regression. So that's a valid point that's going to be talked about, but it's a valid point that needs to be looked into. But I think it's getting to the point in time, especially as far as we are in the season, where now we're seeing regression from Dylan in a lot of areas where he can't connect on deep balls. The fade routes are less than 50-50 if he can get them in. He's obviously hearing footsteps, running for his life, getting hit a lot. Like, if you're the offensive mind that Holgerson is and that we all thought we were getting, we're not asking you to work miracles, but like, stick to doing things that your offense excels at and stop trying to force a square peg in a round hole with all this behind the line of scrimmage stuff when you have a line that can't block. Your quarterback holding on to the ball while these plays develop. It's just, I don't get it. And from the defensive side, I think you should blitz once in a blue moon to make them worry about the blitz. Other than that, everything that lines up looking like a blitz should be a bluff, and you drop guys out into coverage. Because when guys get through the line, they overrun or they get ran right past the quarterback. It's one side or the other. The pocket never collapses on the quarterback. There's always a side that he can roll to. And then now you've got a guy that's in the flat or in some kind of coverage that has to come off of his coverage to cut off the quarterback so he doesn't run for 8 to 15 yards off the edge. And then now there's a guy wide open dragging across the middle or dragging towards the sideline. So there's relatively basic things that happen in football that for some reason just can't or won't be addressed. But like, those are the types of questions I would have liked to have heard more in the press conference. I know you don't want to go in and kill the vibe after a win, but two things can be true at once. You can be happy that you're winning games that you typically would lose, arguably should have lost, overcome a lot of bad calls and win the game, and that's great. But the game shouldn't have been that close. The Cincinnati game shouldn't have been that close. You shouldn't have lost, let alone got embarrassed by Minnesota. Like, the accountability from the players to the position coaches to the coordinators to the head coach, I feel like gets lost in the sauce of, well, there's a lot of sacks, so let's just hone in on the offensive line's a problem, or just let Donovan be the hangman. Like there's plenty of blame to go around, plenty of accountability and work that needs to happen across the board. But again, the bright side is these problems have been existent since game one against Cincinnati, and you're already bowl eligible. So I mean, there's multiple ways to look, or I guess there's two ways of looking at it. Like we're in a lot of trouble going into these games against better rosters and better coaches, or yeah, despite all these deficiencies in all these areas of the team, not just the position groups on the field, but the different coaches and position coaches, you're still winning. You still have a winning record. You're still 5-2. I mean, you look at, they popped up a list. Texas is 5-2. A couple other big teams that were projected to be really good at the beginning of the year, and some people still have faith that they're gonna, be playing bigger bowl games. You have the same record as them, so it's not all doom and gloom, man. But at this point, I just wish we didn't have the same issues every week. It'd be nice to see some of the stuff get cleaned up a little more. And to be fair, from an effort standpoint, guys getting to the ball, some of the play calling, things like that were better than last week. It was hard for me to imagine them being as bad or worse than last week, which was kind of where I came up with my prediction. But it's not all bad, but it's definitely not all good. I don't think anybody feels real confident that they're going to go storming through the back end of the season. But if you would have told us at the beginning of the season the issues we were going to have this deep into the season, I don't think anybody would have predicted we'd be bowl eligible at this point. So it's good and bad. Like Rule said, there's going to be, it's a process. It's going to take a little while. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but it'd be nice to start seeing some of the things get cleaned up.